KTSMradio.com. Brought to you by Patrick Tuttle Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate, 915-588-1850. And by Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, making the old Griggs recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. By M1 EP Management Corporation. By Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino with El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gift shopping. And now, El Paso History with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages already up this morning, including, of course, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv. Today is June 18th, 2022, and today we are talking about the Los Portalis Museum in San Elizario, some of the early history of El Paso County, and the continuing efforts and exhibits that they, of course, have down there. You can find us live on air, online, live streaming on the KTSMradio.com, and of course with full video on the El Paso History Radio Show Facebook page and YouTube channel, as well as up here shortly over on the great, of course, Facebook page and our partners in history, that of Remember in El Paso When. So that's just a few of the ways that you can, of course, find us, because, well, having all the ways that we are out there is important to us. And we do have a history moment today at the top of hour 2 from documentary filmmaker Jackson Polk. Today he talks about some of the history of the Tigua Tribe and Isleta del Sur Pueblo, of course, in El Paso County, close enough to the area that we're talking a little bit more about here today. And of course, this is the place where we also talk about some of the interesting aspects of other parts of history. So joining us in studio here, we do have Oscar Navarro and Ariandna Velez talk about the museum. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely happy to have you all in here. Drop my pen. But in any case, talking about the Los Portalis Museum is important, because the aspects of the history that you all focus on it may be familiar to, well, particularly longtime listeners of this program, but there's a lot that people may not totally understand. Even just the location of the museum is one of the more picturesque here, I want to say, frankly, in town, because we actually have some good pictures of it here. And there's one of the more interesting historic pictures of the location we're talking about here, and then to give a little bit better sense of place, that's the building. And when was this picture taken roughly? Do you know? Black and white, in any case, if people are wanting. So that gives it a certain kind of era. And there's a kid playing with what looks like a tire or a hoop in front of it. So again, giving you a little bit of a sense of time and place there. But that is the museum before it was the museum, as it was a private residence right on the square down there in San Elizario, of course, right on, well, the bounds of essentially the Presidio Chapel itself there at what is that part of the Mission Trail here. And there's a view from y'all's front porch towards, of course, San Elizario, the actual chapel there.
Right. You want to take a little bit of talk about the history of that?
Sure. So the Los Portales building was a private residence, and what's important or what's special about our building is that the Portales, which means porch, was built in what is the front. So back then they would build that area in the back area. Okay. Mr. Garcia built it in the front, so that way it could kind of offset the impact of the sun. And so that's why the porch is in the front at Los Portales.
Yeah, so that makes a little sense, and kind of one of those happy accidents of history, and then, of course, modern, well, use of this of it, because if it had been on the other side, it wouldn't be quite so easily accessible and not quite as picturesque a part of the square, in my biased opinion here, because, again, if anyone has been down there to San Elizario, again, been in the actual square, there is another good picture with the actual gazebo in the middle of the square there, and it really gives it it makes it a nice space. Been down to events down there, but even then, for the museum itself here, of course, with its nice then kind of promenade, almost part of it, and then of course the exhibits inside, it just makes it a very nice experience being part of, and really giving you that sense of place of being down in San Elizario.
Yeah, I mean it's a great place to go and visit itself, and it's just like pretty much like you walk into that area, including the placita and the chapel itself, and it kind of gives you the reference point of the melting pot that is the San Elizario area. You got that Spanish history attached to it, and then even the Mexican influence from the placita. And it's very neat to be in a place where you can literally physically see history.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, we mean that in a couple of ways here, because of course, with the area of San Elizario, the Mission Trail in general is a great place for people to walk through inhabited history. Because I feel like that sometimes people are used to the idea of like, well, this is history in the terms of more along the lines of like ruins, like it was history, and essentially that history is stopped and is now just something to visit, as opposed to something being inhabited and continually used. I mean, sometimes it surprises out of town visitors that sure, the Mission Trail, one of the oldest in Texas and the country overall, is still in active use. These are all still, active parishes, part of the larger diocese area. And the idea that it's still in use and that there's this continuous line here, it puts it less in lines of things like, say, more regionally, like Mesa Verde, where it was something inhabited, no longer is, and more along the lines of, well, the one that I think of in this case would be the Pantheon in Rome, which is something that has been, sure, a historic site, but also continuously used, in that case for millennia, but we still got some good centuries under the belt here.
Yeah, and we also get a lot of visitors that come by that have heard of mission trails beforehand, especially like in the California area, and they're very much surprised that we have something like this in this area.
Mhm.
So it's great to see people just be wowed by how diverse they are, how much different they all look, even though they're similar time periods, and just kind of like I don't know. Every time we have visitors that say that it's a moment of pride and a little bit of a it's nice to hear that from the community that we're on par with the mission trail systems over there in California and such.
Oh, absolutely. And again, the that's the reason that we constantly talk about this kind of stuff here, because the fact that even people locally don't necessarily know about this is both sad, but also a mission to focus on, because if no one's telling them, how do we expect them to know? That kind of a thing. So that's also, again, to beyond just the area that y'all are in, the mission of the museum itself here. Again, we are talking, of course, about the Los Portales Museum that is right there on the square. Here's a part of your, again, front area showing some of those many significant flags, of course, that have crossed this area. People sometimes also feel like forget that Six Flags Over Texas is not just an amusement park, but a literal actor of the history that we've experienced here. There's been a lot of different waves of influence here, but then of course within the museum itself, showing some of your exhibits, you get into some of the significant topics covering those areas and, well, kind of those transitions as well, right?
Correct. So we talk about in this particular area is our permanent exhibit, and we talk about the story of how San Elizario came to be in this area, with Don Juan de Oñate coming through, and
Mhm.
we also have the influence of the Spanish in the area, and we also talk about things like the Salt War, which for history buffs would know this kind of stuff, but
Mhm.
your regular visitor just passing by, that's going to be something neat and something new, and we're always trying to incorporate in a sense of you know here's a point in history where people actually fought and died for something that we take for granted nowadays. Something that you go to McDonald's and you get too much of it on your fries and you're scraping it off, and here's a point in history where it was necessary and people died for it.
Yeah, the salt flats, that anyone who has driven almost any reaches east of here, you're probably going to run into it in some way or another, because yeah, those crystals we're showing right there were literally fought and died over, and otherwise what may be seen as more or less badlands almost, because you can't really grow stuff there, but its criticalness to particularly the early history of El Paso, and even the just let's call it just pre-modern, because of course there was photography available at certain points in time when there were actually those kind of the careta we got the picture of here. There were cameras available, so that puts it again in that kind of particular era of, again, just pre-modern, or even you might call it early modern times here. So that's something, just a few of the topics that you all explore there. You've got the exhibits there, and so just in case anyone is now very much wondering, how can people go and see it? What's the best way for y'all to come out and see you? And what, of course, are the hours?
So our hours are Tuesday through Thursday from 10 to 4, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we're open from 10 to 5. We are closed Mondays, but the rest of the week you're more than welcome to come see us. There is no fee for entrance. We just require you to sign in. We keep track of all of our visitors at the museum, at Los Portales, and also at the Old County Jail.
Okay, so, and again, that Old County Jail is another interesting one to mention here. We were showing the front of course, the Portalis Museum, but the Old County Jail, that is essentially, if I remember it's been a little minute since I've been out there, pretty much pre-pandemic myself here, but as you're taking one of the major routes you can take into San Elizario, the jail seen here is one of the ones that you will kind of pass right by as then you're then headed into, well, essentially around the backside of the Portalis Museum if you keep following that around.
Correct.
So, and so y'all doing some work with that as well. So a lot of interesting topics to get into here, and a lot of people chiming in with us this morning. We've just barely scratched the surface on some of what the museum, what it does, and some of the topics, of course, here, and we'll be exploring that throughout the rest of the show here. Again, if you're just joining us here in studio, we are talking about the Los Portales Museum, and joining us here are Oscar Navarro, Museum Director, and Assistant Director Ariandna Velez, to talk about all of the things going on with it here. So I think we're already due close enough for one of the first breaks of the hour here. And again, a lot of people chiming in online with us: Monica Cervantes, Calvin Williams, Vince Sanchez, Angie Salazar, Keith Wilden, Rosa Rodriguez, and a whole lot more chiming in from all the places, such as, of course, nearby, Brown Acres, Texas, Vince Sanchez down there, Las Cruces, Pueblo West, Colorado, and a whole lot more. I think we saw also Schertz, Texas, Anthony, Texas, Jenny Duarte, Valdespino. So thank you all very much for chiming in here. And some interesting conversation about parts of it, and Vince Sanchez excited to talk about the one of the more historic structures of the Southwest, and eager to hear this show. So hopefully we'll live up to that, among many other things. But again, taking that first break of the hour here right now, we'll be talking a whole lot more about both the subjects, the building, and some of the things that you all are working on, because history is never just a here it is, take it or leave it. It's often a moving target in how it's presented. So that's something that we'll definitely be getting into here. So taking that first break of the hour here right now, you are, of course, listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. We'll be back after this break with more. Stay tuned.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC7 news reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery, and more. The YouTube channel also has more than 100 videos about El Paso history with lectures, documentaries, and various history clips. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV and find out how Texas history begins in El Paso. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152.
Hey El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Southern Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We make car buying fast, fun, and easy. And due to high demand, we need trades. So we'll do whatever it takes to get you out of your old vehicle into a new car, truck, or SUV today.
Even if you owe thousands more than your trade is worth, we want it, so you can get huge savings on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. For a limited time, get $4,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third-row seating and up to $7,000 off select new Ram trucks. Super low 2.9% APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make the Switch event at Southern Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Southern Park Drive or online at southernparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance on select vehicles. 0 down with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
And now, let's turn back the pages of time and return to the El Paso History Radio Show. Brought to you by Patrick Tuttle, Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate, 915-588-1850. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant, 6761 Donovan Drive. By M1 EP Management Corporation, 915-592-4549. By Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Le Trevino, with El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gift shopping. Here again, El Paso History with Andrew J. Polk.
We are, of course, up here and on many places online, including the El Paso History Radio Show on Facebook. You can go there for our weekly promo announcements on the topics of the channel and program each week. Also, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/El Paso History TV, and a lot of different focuses and chiming. We have even over there. You can find the El Paso Gold DVDs, the full history series from Capstone Productions, on more than the last couple of decades of history production and topics here in town, fully uploaded and free for your viewing pleasure. And plus the recent 20 segments from our ABC7 series from El Paso History TV. And of course, don't forget, we will be going out to Pepe's later today. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant in Canutillo, open for in-house dining, 6761 Donovan Drive. Call Pepe's at 915-877-2152, 915-877-2152. Of course, home of the one and only Margarita. But joined here back in studio as we are to talk about the Portalis Museum and all the subjects here with Oscar and Adi, with, of course, the management and administration of the museum. So thanks very much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So talking about the subjects here, and we have, I think, one familiar name, at least, and face to some here, George Sanchez chiming in from that highly paid volunteer docent at the old El Paso County Jail in San Eli. Y'all actually have a decent picture up on some of y'all's social media, but I wasn't sure if he would be chiming in today or not. So, but people can find that here again. You'd be hard pressed to find one of the more distinctive faces in town than George down there.
Yeah, George is a great addition to our staff, and he's always bringing up all his great knowledge that comes with this whole entire area.
Yeah, great picture you had from him recently, within the last year or so, I want to say, of him out there, in front of the old county jail here. But of course, some of the subjects that you all are focusing on down there, how do you make some of the determinations? Again, you have the kind of permanent exhibition space, but you have, some new developments. I mean, y'all are posting decently about it, about what new things you're working on and developing on. So when it comes to even just selecting some of the topics, what are you all focused on?
Right. So for us, it's I came into museums with the mindset of community. It has always been my mantra when it comes to work, that whenever you come into one place, you should leave it better when you leave at it.
Okay.
So for us, we're the only museum in a 20-mile radius for a lot of these people, and so we need to be able to showcase the history of San Elizario, but not only showcase the history, but other topics that matter to the community. And that's our greatest focus now, is to make sure that we are community driven and community focused. So like our newest exhibit is on agriculture and its effects in San Elizario, and it's a no-brainer that we need to talk about agriculture. I mean, it's a pillar of the community, and it's such an important thing. And so we partner up with people like Bodega Loya. We partner up with the city of San Elizario with their agricultural department. Some other people, I drew a little blank here, but it's really important for us to build these exhibits by the community and for the community.
Yeah, I think it's really important to ask the community to give us their perspective. So we go out and we ask our community members to give us stories so we can include in our exhibitions. So my motto is a museum for the community, by the community.
Okay, so that leads to both some of the, again, continuing on things, and even just the history of the building mentioned there a little bit, and how the good luck and fortune of some past decisions being made, making it more better part of the square here. But the building itself here, again, we've had at least one mention to it being one of the more historic buildings and areas of the region here. So what is the history of that building itself?
So that building was built in the 1850s by a Texas Ranger by the name of
Captain Gregorio Garcia.
and so Mr. Garcia lived in that home for 15 years until it was donated to the El Paso County and actually became the first public school in the El Paso County until the 1930s. So we've actually had visitors that have stopped by and remember being in school in that building. So it's very neat. Again, having history be alive, and it's just that kind of a reference point to it is it's such a wonderful gift to have.
Yeah, last time I had a visitor come in and say that he used to live in that building. So the building did serve as a private residence for other families as well throughout the years. And he was explaining to me the setup of his home and his home life while he was there in the early 70s. So that was really interesting.
So yeah, rich history and continuously used at many points of that direct line of history to its very basic founding there. And then, of course, just mentioning the other facilities that you all have a hand with, of course, the jail is often a focal point for a lot of people because of some of its history that was involved with it.
Yeah. So most famously known for its story attached to Billy the Kid. As we all know in history circles, Billy's name is Gold. And so, it's a blessing to have his name attached to our building and to our stories, and it's something that we emphasize. But we're also in the process of trying to add space as well to start telling other stories that we've either lost through history or previous administrations have neglected to emphasize in. So it's a work in process.
As most good things usually are, because if you're ever going to say, well, we're done with this now and there's nothing else to be done, well, again, you're kind of then missing that moving target of both keeping it, of course, accurate. You want to have a level of accuracy and information, but also engaging with the community, because if it's perfectly accurate but not engaging, we generally think of those as, well, I think of it anyways, like dusty archives that only a select few are going to go into. And sure, it's important to have those as well. But if you want to talk about greater community education and getting it out there, the use of the space, I mean, I've been in that building sometimes on my own, and previous times when has been, you would be not necessarily blamed for thinking it was essentially abandoned because of, not even having necessarily doors on the building, that kind of a thing. And it's a very significant space here. Again, here's a picture from familiar name some may know from the show here. I think a tour group and a class from Dr. Max Grossman from UTEP talking about some of the history there. And of course, you can see the famous bars of that particular one jail here. It's not quite the Old West idea people may have from pick a Western of these, bars and, bars in the window. They're almost more like cages within a room. There is kind of a better way to describe them. How do you all end up describing them for people who have no concept, or particularly those listening on radio right now?
Well, we generally always invite our guests to step inside. I think that gives them a better perspective of how small it can be in there. We do know that it was a max capacity of 6 people. So whenever I tell them that, it just completely baffles them how 6 people could fit in such a tiny space.
Very well, hopefully friendly people, but maybe not friendly people in that case. Yeah, that's...
Well, we have to remember that...
That's visceral.
Yeah, we have to remember also that the legal system back in the Old West, especially in this area, was very different to what we now consider to be a standard for, what is law and punishment.
Yeah, very different standards. I mean, I do want to say that nearby there is or at the very least, in a similar position, there may be a tree that may have been a site of, lynchings back in the day. So again, the history of the place and how it came from, it's an important thing to both recognize and then hopefully learn from, again, for the future. But again, focus on the history aspects that you all have, preserving of the area, and of course this one being notable, and I'm surprised no one has mentioned it in the comments here already, as being the only jail Billy the Kid broke into among other things, makes it significant in its own right. But that's just, again, some of the things that you all are dealing with and working on and doing some of the development of. So much kudos to be had from that. That's already going to take us through the next break of the hour here right now. Coming out of this break, we'll talk more about some of the exhibits, some of the kind of general plans. I mean, we just kind of teased about the idea of more use and restoration happening. So we'll get into some more of those topics coming out of this break. More people chiming in over on the social media. Kiwis wrote over on YouTube wondering how much gold was coming out the Franklin Mountains and shipped back to Spain in the late 1500s and early 1600s. Maybe not quite as much gold, but definitely a lot of trade happening, particularly as San Elizario was at a certain point the major spot of El Paso here. But of course, history takes interesting tangents and turns, more of which you all are, of course, marking. We'll talk further about, again, with also George Sanchez. Cannot forget him, and Jenny Duarte Valdespino. Give him some credit to you all. You make history come to life. So we'll talk more about that and a lot more aspects out of this break with more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home Team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com, m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation of investing in real estate, call 915-592-4549, 915-592-4549.
The job market is competitive right now, so you need to be competitive to attract top talent. If you're trying to fill open positions at your business, iHeartMedia is here to help. Use radio and digital targeting to find fresh, passive candidates currently in the workforce. These candidates are listening right now, looking for new opportunities. Together, we can let the community know you're hiring. Visit iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 on News Radio 690 KTSM, breaking down the impact of the news on the borderland and beyond. Brought to you in part by Mission Del Rey Southwest, Souvenirs, Gifts, and Decor. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hi, I'm Kyle Cox, owner of Blindster.com. All of our blinds are easy to install, and we recently introduced No Tools blinds and shades. They require no tools to install. What could be easier? We also have a fitter-free guarantee, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and a limited lifetime warranty on most products.
Visit Blindster today and save 45% off any order. Just use the code Clay and Buck at checkout. Blindster.com. Blinds, TER.com.
Research shows listeners don't like it when ads interrupt their music. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance, we made this ad optional. If you want to skip this ad, remove your left earphone. Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance, so you only pay for what you need.
If you're missing this informative ad, you must love wasting your cash.
It's the easy and smart way to save.
Now it's all been said, so if that earphone was out, put it back in your head.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Okay, ladies, we all know one of the greatest feelings in the world when you get together with a friend and she says,
"Girl, those pants look amazing on you."
But even though I'm happy dancing inside, I just play it cool and say, thanks, they're Skechers Go Walk Wear pants. And why do I always get compliments on these casual, athletic, stretchy pants? Because whether I'm hanging with friends or working out, nothing beats the fit, comfort, and versatility of Skechers Go Walk Wear. They're made with comfortable GoFlex fabric that has compression and hold, including a double compression waistband. What's that mean? It gives me curves in all the right places and minimizes the spots where I want a little help. And the versatility is incredible. Go Walk Wear pants have 4 pockets, 2 back and 2 side. Plus, they're machine washable and come in extended sizes, so everyone can look great in these pants. Easy care, easy wear, and made to fit every body. That's the Skechers Go Walk Wear line of pants. Find yours at Skechers.com, a Skechers store, and find retailers everywhere.
One tap on the talkback mic inside the free iHeartRadio app could get you tickets to our legendary iHeartRadio Music Festival in Vegas this September. First, download the free iHeartRadio app. Second, open the iHeartRadio Music Festival station playing the artists from this year's iconic lineup. Third, tap the talkback mic and send us a message for who you're excited to see take the stage this year.
Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo.
You'll be entered to win tickets for both nights of our world-famous iHeartRadio Music Festival. News Radio 690 KTSM.
And now, let's turn back the pages of time and return to the El Paso History Radio Show. Brought to you by Patrick Tuttle, Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate, 915-588-1850. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant, 6761 Donovan Drive. By M1 EP Management Corporation, 915-592-4549. By Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino, with El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gift shopping. Here again, El Paso History with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am, of course, your host, Andrew J. Polk, talking about some of the subjects that we, of course, have our great partners in history here with, including the Celebrations of Our Mountains group that hold a lot of great events. If anyone went out there to the visit at the Tech H2O Center and the K. Bailey Hutchinson desalinization plant, let us know, because we're interested to know how that worked out for you. But of course, they got more coming up, including coming up on Thursday, June 23rd, the Mexican Revolution Tour with the Tom Lee Institute, and even some further already planned out into September and even all the way through November, including things such as Fossils of Mount Cristo Rey with Eric Kappas, which is a tour you do not want to miss. I've had the chance to be out with him on a slightly more personal basis, but I'm sure in a tour that he still does great work in talking about some of the very interesting aspects of our area. So find them online at celebrationofourmountains.org, celebrationofourmountains.org to find their full schedule events list and everything going on here. As of course, making sure you mention some of our sponsors and helping us promote El Paso history, Monterey Asset Management. They have changed their name to M1EP Management Corporation. That's M1EP.com is where you can find them. That's M1EP.com, or give them a call at 915-592-4549, 915-592-4549 to find them. But of course, joined back here in studio by Oscar and Ari with the Los Portalis Museum down in San Elizario. Again, very, very scenically located right there on the square. And I just got to pop that picture up again because the view that you would get from y'all's front porch over towards, I mean, if anyone is wondering, well, where is this place? This might give you the very clear idea of, sure, you may want to look on a map how to get there, but if you're ever wondering where it is, if you're standing in front of the San Elizario Chapel, turn right. Yeah, basically,
yeah. And it's such a great view to be able to work from every day.
Oh yeah. Just if you're ever thinking like, man, there's a lot of work here, just go outside and just get a little bit of perspective. Like, oh, right.
Yeah, especially at the end of the day, it's a little bit, sun's going down. It's a beautiful view of the church in the area.
Yeah, I can understand that entirely. I don't have many windows in this building, so I understand that entirely. Sometimes you got to go out and get some literal perspective on this kind of thing, so I can imagine that being helpful. So we were talking a bit about both some of the work that you all are doing and literally saw some of the exhibits that you all are focused on here, because doing so is important and keeping it related to the community. But I just wanted to touch a little bit further on the actual facilities that you all are dealing with, because I think the actual idea of particularly the old county jail, not just being a important site, but actually a place for things to happen, it may come as news to some people. So what are you all working on with that?
Right. So our newest initiative on with the old county jail is that first of all, it's going to be renovated completely by the county, which is incredible to have the building in its entirety be brought back to us best of a condition that we can to do. In it right now, we're working on trying to get stories of the time frame of the jail. So from 1850 to 1874, when San Elizario was the first county seat. And so we're gonna have roaming exhibits of that kind of information of the law and the time period, the first county seat itself. Let's see, the sheriffs that worked in that area, and we're gonna also talk about the Civil War a little bit as it portrayed during this time period for us. So it's something very interesting.
I mean, there's some little impacts of history there as well. People may not think that much because we're not some of the more major battles, but Donovan is named and other streets in the area are named for reasons of some of the conflicts that have happened in the area. So you can find the traces of it. And so that point you just made there about San Elizario being the first county seat of it, I think that may fall by the wayside for a lot of people who haven't taken, even a mildly concerted studies of El Paso history, because people may think, wait, what tiny little San Elizario was the county seat? How did that happen? But of course, we're looking at that from the modern standpoint. And if you go back far enough, particularly when we're talking about, the settlement of the area,
Right.
the Spanish influence, they started closer to, essentially the very important resources, the water, and it being right in that area. In fact, also another part that often gets lost here, the fact that the river used to be different in that area. I mean, all of these things combined to those circumstances at the time. We're talking about, the middle of last millennia, really, that there were different considerations when they thought about it. And this was one of the first real parts of the county to develop.
Right. I think people forget that San Elizario at one point had more people living in it than El Paso did. It wasn't until the railroad system in the 1890s came through and just made El Paso what it is today.
I mean, even if you're talking prehistorically, native peoples in the region settled close to the river because water ever so slightly important, and indoor plumbing being centuries away at that point. Yeah, being close to the resources that literally provide life, particularly here in the desert Southwest, important. And of course, as the Spanish came through, they wanted to, as they had their relationships with the native peoples of the area, wanted to be often be focused around them. I mean, the entire Mission Trail essentially is one of the better markers, if you want to think about it, of where essentially native habitation was or developed around it.
Yeah, it's a perfect example on that end. And I mean, you see any place in the world where it comes through with habitation and it's surrounded by water sources.
Yeah, water defines it here. And so, of course, in the desert Southwest, either waterways or irrigation systems. And we, of course, have the combination of both here in our area. So that's, of course, just as a kind of a more roundabout way of talking about why your exhibit there about the actual agriculture and, cultivation in the area is so significant and why it really defines how this area developed, right?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, the Rio Grande is right in our streets basically.
Was at certain points
At
as well.
certain points,
Yeah.
exactly. So it would often flood the complete area, which made it a very fertile land, which made it a perfect place to cultivate cotton, for example. We were also very famous for grapes. We used to produce
Right.
the mission grapes. And then, just other products like alfalfa, onions, other things like that is what we're focusing on in our exhibit, letting our community know what we're known for, essentially. As you drive through San Elizario, you can still see certain farms. You can still look out the window and see fields of alfalfa, but they're slowly declining. And so my goal with this exhibit was to give some light on how important it is to still have those farmlands in the area, and provide and give some recognition to the farmers in our community.
Yeah, because even just the base level of knowledge about it can be impactful and, well, it's continuing significance. Because, I mean, if someone doesn't have an idea of why something is important, even if it is maybe their livelihood and may have existed beyond their knowledge for hundreds of years in this case, them not knowing about that and understanding that can lead to further decisions being made. So not necessarily about you're not exactly like a conservation corps exhibit here promoting it, but the idea of it and being like, okay, know the place, know the history, and if you're going to make your decision, make it, but just know what it has meant for the area. And again, the literal name of the exhibit, the seeds we sowed, right?
Yeah, the seeds we sowed, the agricultural roots of San Elizario. So we began as a farming community. That's how we were established and that's how we grew. And I think just shining light on how important these farming families were. We asked a lot of our board members to share stories with us about their experience growing up on farms. It was basically everyone had a story about farming in their childhood. So that is kind of what we included in our exhibit to show that it has been an integral part of everyone's childhood, essentially, in the area. Even if they didn't grow up to go into agriculture, they went into other things. They still remembered picking cotton or going out there with their parents in the heat, So it's a very integral part of the community.
Keith Wilden mentioning, don't forget apricots and peaches prior to 1916, him mentioning there, because,
Very true.
I mean, again, we were mentioning some commercial products there, of course, a little bit more modernly, but again, do you want to talk about literal roots of it, idea of both what could be grown here, what could be sold here, and what needed to be eaten here as well. That's always a very important part when you're talking about particularly historically developing agriculture. It's one thing if you go out to an area, pump in new water and systems and grow, the circles of cover crops, alfalfa, like you're mentioning, or others. But when talking about the historical development, I mean, the acequia madres and all of that was very much focused on the sustainment of life in the area. So that's an interesting one to focus on there. And then you've actually got a couple more exhibits that you all are working on, right? Both like in process now and in the near future.
Yeah. So our next exhibit, we don't have a nice title for it yet. Ari hasn't come up with one yet. It's going to be dealing with the first county seat, and then also dealing with voting and voting education. So for us, it's another important part of the area. The law was done in San Elizario that pertained to the whole entire region during that 1850 through 74 period, and it's integral for us to highlight that, but also show today's standards. We're partnering up with the El Paso elections department. And they're actually bringing down a functioning machine for voting, and we're going to be bringing in the seniors from the local high schools so they can know what it is to vote for the first time, or how to what's the process of all of these things. And we're building the exhibit on educating the community and anybody that comes and visits the area how things are different between El Paso and San Elizario under government structures, and how the voting is done, and just the 101 about what is the voting process and stuff like that. It's important for us to, again, the community aspect of this is to make sure that we encourage and entice the community to be part of our local government system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And from a more historical standpoint, we also want to educate our community of how we got to where we are. So we want to kind of map out that process of being the first county seat. Why did we lose the seat? What happened afterwards. We want to educate everyone and let them know, exactly how we came to be who we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. And people may be wondering, we occasionally get comments and calls that if we're not strictly talking about the city of El Paso, does our phrase still apply? Texas history begins in El Paso. And it absolutely does here. We're talking about El Paso County as a whole and the seat of the county, but also we don't necessarily take El Paso as a strictly, no, if you go 1 foot outside of the city limits, it no longer applies here, but rather the whole southwest borderland area as a whole, because we won't even talk about necessarily the name El Paso. It has not necessarily applied, like when San Elizario was the county seat. El Paso at certain points may not have actually been the name. It may have been Franklin, and may have been technically considered essentially Juarez North. So the way it's been done over the years, then the development of it, the path we got to where we are is interesting here. So we're getting close to taking that next break right now. We also have Richard Marquez joining us here, as previously mentioned, Keith Wilden, Angelica Navarro, Robbie Flores, if I think I mentioned that, Angie Salazar with a comment I almost missed over there, saying her husband Isaac is related to Billy the Kid. So, a lot of interesting connections that happen in this area, and some other interesting ones here. So if you want to leave your comments over on the social media, you're more than welcome to. But we're going to be taking that next break right now. Again, still joined here in studio with Oscar and Ari with the Los Portalis Museum in San Elizario. Just that address and your hours one more time in case anyone is feeling the need to come and explore it for themselves.
So we're located at 1521 San Elizario Road, right in front of the chapel. And our hours are from Tuesday to Thursday, 10 to 4. And then on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 to 5.
Excellent. So find them, of course, in many places online, including losportalismuseum.com, I believe. .org, of course. .org. Makes a lot more sense here as an organization, but of course, you want to find them. We also got some of the links posted over on our social media. So we're going to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, get into more of the stories, more on the exhibits, and more of that development history that we were ever so slightly mentioning that you all have exhibited and are working on, but how that actually came to be is a fascinating story in and of itself. So more on that after this break, with more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC 7 news reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery, and more. The YouTube channel also has more than 100 videos about El Paso history with lectures, documentaries, and various history clips. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV and find out how Texas history begins in El Paso.
Wonderful product. I've lost 111 pounds using that product. 111 pounds. You could not believe the difference. I went from a size 48 pant to a 33 pant, and I've maintained that now for over almost a year now. Yeah, absolutely. Andro 400 has helped me lose 111 pounds, and I've maintained my weight for almost a year now.
Thanks, James, for that inspiring testimony and 111 good reasons to choose Andro 400. The most effective and natural way to lose belly fat, increase libido, gain energy, strength, and muscle while safely boosting your testosterone levels. So guys, how many reasons do you need for trying Andro 400? Well, here are 2 more great reasons. Order now and get free shipping plus an additional $6 off when you use the code SAVE6. That's SAVE6. Call 888-400-0435, 888-400-0435, or go to andro400.com, andro400.com.
M1EP.com, superior multifamily property management services citywide.
There are so many words they could use to describe Panera's new Chef's Chicken sandwiches. But when you have a bite, you might just be left speechless. Panera, the familiar made fantastic. Enjoy a $0 delivery fee when you order on their app. Restrictions apply.
Rich is just a really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich, no. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
And now, let's turn back the pages of time and return to the El Paso History Radio Show. Brought to you by Patrick Tuttle, Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate, 915-588-1850. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant, 6761 Donovan Drive. By M1EP Management Corporation, 915-592-4549. By Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino, with El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gift shopping. Here again, El Paso History with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. A couple of things we want to tell you about other partners in local history. TalkandRockRadio.com, Rick Kern's music podcast. Talk and Rock Radio. Find them there online with some great conversations about both some of the music history of El Paso, some of the performers that's still in and around, and the continuing development of not even just the music from out there, but also stuff being produced. Of course, also our sponsors here, Patrick Tuttle, Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate, has done some great work for our family, and you can, of course, give them a call to find out your own next housing story by calling 915-588-1850, 915-588-1850. Patrick is an excellent realtor, and his team can help you find El Paso homes for sale or rent. Again, that number to call, ring right in his pocket there, 915-588-1850. But joined here again in studio by Oscar and Ari from the Los Portalis Museum. And we actually do have someone chiming in here that may or may not be familiar, both audio-wise and, well, if you see him in person anywhere, because we do have George Sanchez calling in with us. George, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
How are you today?
I have a quick story on the old El Paso County Jail building.
Go ahead, George.
have there that's very important to me is that we have a couple of very important maps, and in the displays, we have other things that show when the different borders were established. But let me first tell you about the 1850 map of Texas that hangs on the wall there that I like to talk about. In 1850 was when El Paso County was established. And since most of the people lived in the San Elizario area, they made San Elizario the county seat of El Paso County. And there were some iron jail cells that were shipped here from Chicago, and they were put together there in the building. Now, let me tell you an interesting story about the building. I have talked to people in San Elizario that were kids in 1950. That's 100 years after San Elizario was the county seat. In 1950, they used to go play there. The iron jail cells were there, but there was no ceiling. There was no ceiling. Now, very little wall. And the reason for that is because San Elizario was the county seat for about 15 or 20 years. Then the county seat went to Isleta. And then after that, it went to El Paso. And probably the reason after 15 years that it was no longer the county seat, it's an adobe building and they let it deteriorate. So that's why in 1950, there was no ceiling. Now, if you go there now, there is a new ceiling there, and it was put up 10 years ago when they were making the building into a museum. I thought it would be interesting to let you know about that story.
Oh, it's a great story there. So very, very much for the call here. And Keith Wilden asking, are those actually the old jail cells? And to my understanding, yes, those are original.
Yes, they are.
Excellent there. So, George, thank you very much for calling in here. We're coming up on the top of the next hour here. So appreciate you both chiming in and then calling us in here. Do appreciate it. And, of course, the great work that you do as, again, that highly paid volunteer docent in the area.
That's George for you.
Bye.
All right, thanks a lot there, George. So that is taking us, again, through the top of the hour here, as we have a lot more people chiming in here, including, of course, Barbara Given Bainey, BGB from, remember, in El Paso, when, and Keith Wilden mentioning, along with Vince Sanchez, thank you for saying chapel and not mission. And Keith mentioning had that drilled into him repeatedly when he was learning the history. That's what makes it so special here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, yes, it is a Presidio chapel, part of the mission trail, but well, the specifics of history are important and informing in a lot of ways here.
Yeah, we make sure to tell all our visitors the differences.
Absolutely, because knowing the difference, knowing is half the battle, so to speak here. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the top of the hour news break, we'll continue talking with Oscar and Ari with the administration of the Portalis Museum. So stay tuned for more of the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Thank you for listening to the El Paso History Radio Show. There's another hour to go, so please stay tuned. This hour is brought to you by Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant, home of the Juan and only Margarita, by Patrick Tuttle, Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate, 915-588-1850, by M1 EP Management Corporation, 915-592-4549, by Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino, with El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gift shopping. We'll be right back after the news, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Hey El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We make car buying fast, fun, and easy. And due to high demand, we need trades. So we'll do whatever it takes to get you out of your old vehicle into a new car, truck, or SUV today.
Even if you owe thousands more than your trade is worth, we want it, so you can get huge savings on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. For a limited time, get $4,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third-row seating and up to $7,000 off select new Ram trucks. Super low 2.9% APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make the Switch event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance. On select vehicles. 0 down with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Come celebrate the magic behind women-owned businesses at the 18th Annual International Women's Business Symposium, Dancing Backwards in High Heels. Hear from the women leading the charge in the business world. Recognize women entrepreneurs for their success. Get a free professional headshot provided by New American Funding. And stop by the Dior and Foliage Day Spa Beauty Corner. Breakfast, lunch, and closing reception are included. So be sure to join us on Thursday, June 23rd at the Hotel Paso del Norte for an exceptional in-person experience. Tickets by calling 566-4066.
COVID-19 has affected millions across the U.S. If you and your family get sick, you may be wondering how you can help. Learn more about Active 6, a research study looking at potential treatment options for COVID-19 that may help people with COVID feel better faster. You may be able to help from the comfort of your own home. We'll mail medications to you and you'll complete surveys online. Learn more at active6study.org/radio. That's activ6study.org/radio.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brad Siegel. President Biden appears to be okay after taking a tumble off his bike today near his Rehoboth Beach, Delaware vacation home. Secret Service agents quickly surrounded the 79-year-old commander-in-chief. As he stood up, the president could be heard telling reporters that he's good following the fall. Biden said he had trouble taking his biking shoes out of the pedals as he tried to stop and chat with passersby who wanted to meet his dog, Commander. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is not happy that Customs and Border Patrol statistics show 50 people on the terrorist watch list were captured at the Mexican border. The Republican told reporters he wonders how many people on the watch list were able to slip through the fingers of Border Patrol.
If you're on the terror watch list, you will be spending more money to the cartels to try to evade being caught.
He's accused the Biden administration of failing to do its job and protect the border. CBP says the arrests were made between ports of entry from October 2021 and May of 2022. Calls are coming from immigration groups across South Florida for comprehensive reform. Marlon Bastian with the Family Action Network movement says the system is broken, leaving thousands at risk for unfair deportation.
Today, we have millions of people in legal limbo. We are at a standstill, and there is a need for action.
The Biden administration has proposed legislation that would create new ways for immigrants to legally enter the U.S. A Philadelphia firefighter was killed this morning when a building collapsed at 30 in Indiana in the Fair Hill section of the city following a fire there, trapping several firefighters and a city inspector. Firefighters worked hard to free their colleagues, but officials say a 27-year veteran of the department didn't make it. Mayor Jim Kenney on Twitter says he's grieving with the firefighters. 4 firefighters were taken to the hospital in stable condition. And travelers are facing another day of flight delays and cancellations. FlightAware shows another 1,200 flights already canceled or delayed today. Brad Siegel, NBC News Radio.
From the 4-1 Weather Center, this is CBS 4 weather forecaster Brady Brewster. Temperatures as we head into your weekend settling around normal in those upper 90s as well. Slight chances each day for a thunderstorm. Most of those chances under about 10%. We'll see chances for thunderstorms increasing a little more as we head into early next week.
Make this the year you go to our iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com.
iHeartRadio, let's go! A weekend full of superstar performances, never seen before collaboration, and once-in-a-lifetime moments you'll have to see to believe.
Friday, September 23rd and Saturday, the 24th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas.
Our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Buy your tickets now at AXS.com.
Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 on News Radio 690 KTSM, breaking down the impact of the news on the borderland and beyond. Brought to you in part by Mission Del Rey Southwest, souvenirs, gifts, and decor. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. A staggering 8 million tons of plastic ends up in the world's oceans every year. If current trends continue, our oceans could contain more plastic than fish by 2050. Do your part. Purchase items made from renewable or recycled content and recycle whenever possible. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
M1EP.com, superior multifamily property management services citywide.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
News Radio 690 KTSM presents the second hour of the El Paso History Radio Show with your host, Andrew J. Polk. Streaming live at ktsmradio.com. Brought to you by Patrick Tuttle Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate, 915-588-1850. By Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant, home of the Juan and only Margarita. By M1 EP Management Corporation, 915-592-4549. By Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino, for El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gift shopping. And now El Paso History, with your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM, airing live. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk, starting hour 2 of the show, as we usually do, with a history moment from documentary filmmaker Jackson Polk here on the El Paso History Radio Show, talking this week about some of the history of the Tigua Tribe and, of course, the Isleta del Sur Pueblo.
Corpus Christi de Isleta, or the Isleta Mission, is the first mission and pueblo in Texas. It was established in 1682 by Franciscan priests and built by the Tiguas for the purpose of Christianizing members of the tribe who had been brought by the Spaniards from New Mexico in 1680. To the Tiguas, the mission church is known as San Antonio, after their patron saint, and they call the pueblo Isleta del Sur. The location of the original mission church is said to have been near the Rio Grande, 3 leagues southeast of modern-day Ciudad Juarez. The adobe church we see today was constructed in 1851, and its distinctive silver dome bell tower was added in 1897. When the Jesuits took over the church in 1881, they renamed it Nuestra Señora del Monte Carmelo. The structure was severely damaged by fire in 1907, but it was soon repaired. Over time, flooding altered the course of the Rio Grande to the south and west, leaving Isleta on the river's north bank. Since the main current of the Rio Grande was the international boundary between the United States and Mexico, as agreed to in the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, Isleta became United States territory. In 1967, the Texas legislature recognized the Tiguas as an Indian tribe. The following year, President Lyndon Johnson also recognized the tribe and transferred federal responsibility to the state of Texas. The Isleta Mission is the oldest continually operating church in Texas and is still active today. Tourists are asked to call before visiting the mission. I'm Jackson Polk with this history moment for the El Paso History Radio Show.
Of course, we do have to mention some of our further great partners in promoting El Paso history, specifically the Facebook page, Remember in El Paso Win, and group, of course, run by Barbara Given Baney and many others. They have some great archive pictures, great discussions happen over there, and they do have some interesting requirements. You got to be connected to El Paso, have a avowed interest in it, and that's one of the ways through their regulations and rules. You definitely have a lot of great content available over there. So if you're using any of it, particularly reposting, make sure to give them credit. And of course, we have to credit many of the people involved in the operation of that. Having that size of a group and having it say not be full of spam is no mean feat online these days. So Chief Admin and Owner Historian Barbara Given Baney, affectionately known as BGB, does some great work in maintaining it, along with admins Rick Duncan, Rick Nahara, Margaret D. Smith, Paul Louie, and moderators Ben Vincent and Al Lowe. Some of them chiming in here today. So happy to have them and participating with that. And I'll, of course, post it up over on there with Barbara Given Baney chiming in. And yeah, a lot more people appreciating that from over there as well. At least one of the administrators was chiming in over there as well a little bit earlier in our comments. And yeah, some good, very much appreciative to Barbara Given Baney and Vince Sanchez liking the voice over there. Glad you enjoyed it here. But of course, joining us here in studio still for the hour 2 of the program, we do have Oscar and Ari with the Portalis Museum talking about some of the aspects that you all investigate and have the history on. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention some of the, well, in light of that history, some of the modern history that has happened, of course, with the Supreme Court case, Isleta del Sur Pueblo versus Texas, that has now been decided in essentially favor of the tribe, allowing for some of those technical natures and parts that might, someone should probably do an exhibit somewhere on that and how it has gotten to this point, because that is its own. There is nothing that involves native peoples in this country that is not at very least a little bit complicated, and this is one of the very much different ones. So upshot is it might have something to do with the current development of the area as these laws and changes take effect here.
Right. And first of all, a quick shout out to Rick Quesada, the director over there at the Tigua Center.
Absolutely.
Great guy. And actually, we're very excited to see the developments that happen with this case and what goes through with them as well.
Again, getting a little bit into modern history here, but we'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention it. No, that's it. I have my foibles with that as well here. So it is very interesting in relation to what is happening now. But of course, the focus on the development of that's talking about how this area came to be. Again, we're talking about that in the 1600s as part of that history moment. But again, a lot of the history that you focus on is some of the, I guess, early modern history. I mean, a lot of focus on the development of the county and the establishment of the county. As you can see, again, you want to talk about waves of history going from, again, the Spanish era, then, of course, through the, Mexican era, and then through the U.S. era, the establishment of the county itself here. One of the things that often comes out, it doesn't really apply to us out here because we don't have those nice boxy counties anyway, but one of those pervasive myths is that the counties were established to be one horse ride day away from each other. Does that have anything to do with anything you've seen about the definition of the county or anything like that?
No, actually, no.
I've
That would be something interesting to look into.
Yeah.
Again, it makes more sense when you're talking about eastern parts of Texas where they have those kind of often square, except for like Travis County being that weird shape that it is, with the argument being that it's heart shaped. So that's the heart of Texas that I'm not sure the Rivers actually cared about that they were defined as there. But still, that's one of those pervasive myths about why they are shaped the way they are. And again, even if that was the theory, I'm not sure that holds up out here at all, because you're telling me you're riding across Hudspeth County in one day by a horse, and yeah, I'm not sure I buy that. Anyway, talking about the development of the county here, because I mean, the waves of where it's been settled here, talking about, of course, Isleta as being the oldest mission. And again, yes, San Elizario is the remnants of the Presidio Chapel of San Elizario, which, again, different pronunciations, slight spellings here, patron saint of soldiers and those kind of things. So the actual seed of it there being set in then 1850, kind of the way that, again, George also, when he called in end of last segment, kind of close to an interesting framework of that there was essentially, when it came to, again, the modern county history, kind of a westward march of the county seat anyway.
Right. I mean, it's like anything in history. It's a moving forward area, and for us, just being lucky enough to be part of that through the 1850s on, it's a blessing. And I think, again, like we had mentioned before, it's one of those things that I don't think people realize how many people were living in San Elizario at that area at that time. and why it makes sense that that would be the location of the first county seat area first.
Give us some perspective on what the relative population was. I'm actually forgetting at the moment. Was El Paso in name in existence at that point, or was it still considered like Franklin, essentially?
It was considered Franklin at that
Mhm.
point. And to bog down on what the different aspects of the history.
Please
would
get
be.
bogged down.
I mean, just the general transformation of the El Paso area. Just marring what was happening with San Elizario in itself, and it's just one of those things that happens. Like the great march of history just goes through, and for
Mhm.
us, having I think like about 1,400 people living in the area of San Elizario during the time period of the county seat to the relative very small amount of people that were living in El Paso at the time, and just how much different it went from that 20-year span of time when the railroad system actually connected to.
Yeah, because again, this is a phrase I've been coming up a lot with lately, but there's a lot of before and after periods in this region's history as things that completely revolutionized it and completely different on either side of events. And some of the major ones, of course, being, the Spanish arrival in the area, completely different before and after, the advent of, the different revolutions we've talked about. And of course, the railroad is probably one of the better defining ones in again, pre-modern and early modern history, because you look on either side of that. I like to talk about odds, possibilities. Like, sure, it would have been possible that someone could have loaded up a ox cart or a covered wagon and dragged something from across from other parts east of here, but it became a whole lot more likely after the railroad because it could have gotten here that much easier. Did have a good comment over here, Vicente Enriquez over on the YouTube page. What about the one in Juarez? That's the first one. Yes, that is absolutely correct. The mission in Juarez, and of course the cathedral there now on the adjacent site anyway. Right. That was the original one, but if you notice in the history moment, we were talking about the first one in Texas, or what is now Texas. And even that gets, again, a little fidgety because it used to not be in this side of the Rio Grande. Again,
Yeah.
the history of this area is fascinating, and why we never run into things to talk about.
Yeah, another kind of confusing aspect of it was that San Elizario was also considered part of New Mexico at one point, and then we became part of Texas, and that's when we got the first county seat, because then we were the largest population on this side. So it gets really confusing on the borderlines
Yeah.
there.
Hence why we're trying to update that kind of
Explain, yeah.
information to kind of clarify some of those points through.
Absolutely. And Flaco Jimenez mentioning, Six Flags over Texas, Spain, France, Mexico, Republic of Texas, Confederacy, and the USA. And I think you all got at least a couple more flags out there, really, than that, at least on like the front of the Portalis, it seems like. Or am I mislooking at one? What's that one? We're popping up the picture here right now. The one that is more, get it popped up here. The one that is more kind of down towards the second from the end. The one is more, there's kind of the bear cross with almost some furring coming off of it. The one right about there.
The yellow one or the red one?
The red one. See if I can make that a little bit bigger for you all to see. That one right there. The one that's essentially the red X.
Right. That would be the Spanish.
Spanish at the time here. Okay, so you all again have represented the actual flags as they existed there. So I sometimes forget about that one because, well, you could be maybe not totally blamed for mistaking that one for Great Britain, though of course at the time it would be very, very well blamed.
Yeah, there would be something wrong with history if that was the case.
Absolutely here. So yeah, some of them, and also Larry Kendrick chiming in from Las Cruces. Thank you for doing so. One of the aspects I think people don't totally get, because in the modern standpoint, again, it's very tempting to think of borders as these well-defined and often fought over lines that everyone knew and understood. But when we're talking about particularly coming out of the colonial era, well, frontiers were more of a concept as essentially this is our extent of control, and we have claim kind of over that way. I mean, there's a reason that we still have in history now the boundary markers that existed, because even in the early modern era, and just like before, like, I mean, heck, there's video of these things. That's when these things were still being put forth, because the idea of actual control versus where you're claiming it. I mean, I remember reading about in history of back east how the French, in trying to stake their claim to the Ohio River Valley, were going along and burying metal plaques every like mile or so as
Right.
like, no, we totally like, no, dig it up, find it. We have claim here.
Right.
Whether that was useful or not, it's well, they seemed important to them at the time. So we had above ground ones here. I feel like we're a little bit further ahead of that kind of a thing when we had the boundary markers, including some that are down there in the San Elizario area. But again, the idea of it being just this totally agreed upon and an inviolable thing is a very modern concept and really did not exist at this point in history. Frontiers and zones of control were much more prevalent and really how it worked. So you get further away from developed areas, the weirder things could get, essentially.
Yeah, and it's one of those model things about, especially like Texas history in itself, on how the time when this was all part of Mexico and expansion through and property places. It's a very controversial and sometimes a little bit of a sore subject for some, but it's an important one to be able to explain, and that would be with the frontiers itself. And it all interconnects, I believe. Just like everything in history does, it all interconnects in one way or another.
I mean, again, as a part of your exhibits down there, charting the change in governments and rule of law. Even the rule of law is a slightly modern concept when you're talking about the span of history we're discussing here, where the rule of law may have been the range of your firearms at the time. Essentially, there, whatever you had the ability to actually enforce it, because, well, people going out and doing random things in the wilderness and or outlaw settlements kind of thing like that was, well, a part of the history of the area, and why we had, among other things, sometimes Texas Rangers getting called in when we're talking about the Salt War. But we'll touch on that here in just a little bit, because that's another subject. But again, so just on the development of the county of itself as it became, again, more formalized and established, because, yeah, there was the concept of, before this was actually a state or even a territory, of where did El Paso want to go as a region? Did it want to stick with New Mexico or Texas? And ultimately, Texas being a state seemed more advantageous, even if I may have some, well, it's an interesting thought experiment to do about what would have happened if we had stayed as part of New Mexico. But of course, that didn't happen. And the way things did happen is a very important part of exploring the history here.
Right. I think that all historians have that what if kind of moments, and that's always fun to talk about those. But yeah, they can get very imaginary and very interesting.
Yeah. Again, butterfly effect kind of things we're almost talking about here. If one small change has happened, such as what if there had been 2 Texas Rangers that showed up during the Salt War, what might have happened then? But that's for another topic in another area here. So interesting comments coming in over on the social media. Again, we're being joined here in studio by Oscar and Ari with the Los Portalis Museum in San Elizario, right next to the Presidio Chapel of San Elizario. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, going to talk a little bit more about, again, some of that charting of the history of the county and some of the other topics that they are exploring down there. So stay tuned for more after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the Juan and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
Hey El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We make car buying fast, fun, and easy. And due to high demand, we need trades. So we'll do whatever it takes to get you out of your old vehicle into a new car, truck, or SUV today.
Even if you owe thousands more than your trade is worth, we want it, so you can get huge savings on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. For a limited time, get $4,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third-row seating and up to $7,000 off select new Ram trucks. Super low 2.9% APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make the Switch event at Sunland Park Chrysler Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We're buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance. On select vehicles. 0 down with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Research shows listeners don't like it when ads interrupt their music. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance, we made this ad optional. If you want to skip this ad, remove your left earphone. Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
If you're missing this informative ad, you must love wasting your cash.
It's the easy and smart way to save.
Now it's all been said, so if that your phone was out, put it back in your head.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required. Refund available for 60 days after purchase.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. Love your results or your money back. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
And now, let's turn back the pages of time and return to the El Paso History Radio Show. Brought to you by Patrick Tuttle, Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate, 915-588-1850. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant, 6761 Donovan Drive. By M1 EP Management Corporation, 915-592-4549. By Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino, with El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gift shopping. Here again, El Paso History with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. A lot of ways for you to chime in with us. We do have a phone call we'll take here in just a minute, but a lot of comments coming in over on the social media. Flaco Jimenez, Kiwis Road, Daniel Lehman, Monica Cervantes, Larry Kendrick, and more. And a lot of people dropping those likes. We do appreciate more than we got on the list here. But a lot of conversations can be had. Of course, we'll be having more coming up for you on the show here, including coming up next week. Going to be talking with the New Mexico Farm and Ranch Museum about, well, some more of those developmental topics about the area and how it has continued through the modern age. So stay tuned, of course, for that. One more sponsor to remind you about, Mission Del Rey Southwest. Go there with out-of-town visitors for souvenirs, jewelry, gifts, decor, and a whole lot more, including foodstuffs, literal flavor of the Southwest. They've been stocked well with those items. So if you're looking for, again, taking someone out of town to give them an idea of what it looks like, can feel like, and taste like around here, or even just for yourself with those ever so important holidays coming up, hint, hint, Father's Day, hint, hint, among others. You can find them, of course, online at missiondelrey.com. That's missiondelrey.com. Or if you're, well, haven't thought about it enough time to actually get it ordered, go to their 12,000 square foot showroom on Lee Trevino. Mention the El Paso History Radio Show for a discount. So again, missiondelrey.com. That's missiondelrey.com, or give them a call directly, 915-440-2140. That's 915-440-2140. So, of course, we are joined here in studio by Ari and Oscar with the Los Portalis Museum down in San Elizario. I think we had a quick question on the line here for them. We have Jorge calling in from Brooklyn. Jorge, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Yes, I just had a quick question, but I'm asking my question in conjunction with Telesforo Montes, who was both a Texas Ranger and a county judge, I believe, there in San Elizario, who on my mother's side is one of her relatives. And I wanted to specifically ask whether you had said that the county jail had no bars, and can you tell me about when the jail was actually put in place, that is to say, when it was constructed?
Okay, so thank you for the question there. So the two parts of that being the actual bars, what is the status of them in the county jail, and then what when it was actually established. So let's go with that one first then, because so when was that building, that edifice, the one that we've been popping up those pictures about, because that is the same location. When was that actually built?
Right. So that building was there beforehand during the 1820s, the first part of it. Once the cells were brought in from Chicago and built, that building was, the cells were built around that building. So the second part of the building was built. So there's a little bit of a difference there. I'm not completely sure what he's referring to as the bars.
So, I mean, we're talking about essentially, I mean, if you really want to look at them, I would call them closer to cages than like the idea, again, of the old pick a Western, the idea that you got these floor to ceiling bars that are then with defined doors and then the bars and the windows kind of thing. It is not that.
No.
Essentially, we've basically got smaller cages within a larger room.
Yeah, and so they're pretty much built as holding boxes. That would be the best term for that. With a particular corner hole so that you can use your bathroom needs as needed. And yeah, those were original to the cells themselves and brought in the 1850s when the jail was installed into the area.
So, of course, law and, well, the relative execution of it, as can be described at the time here, evolving over time. So these were built before that point here. And so, yeah, in the 1820s, like you were saying, but of course, then becoming the county jail at the establishment of the county. And then as facilities and government and seats of power moved a bit more western within the county, it fell into disuse. And again, I've been in there, not when it didn't have a roof. I don't think we would have gone in there if it didn't have a roof, but definitely didn't have all the doors that it has now. The last time I was in there, have not been there since any renovation efforts, I will freely admit. So again, some of the pictures that we've got coming up from including recent tour groups going through the area, very different now, a lot more useful and usable, if not exactly for its original purpose.
Yeah, but I mean, it's people still get to go inside the jails and get a little taste of what the little bit of law was back in the day.
Again, law in a very relative kind of terminology here, very different from the way we might consider it now. Not a lot of grand juries at that point in time, I wouldn't expect.
Nope.
Exactly. So different.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it looks a lot different, but there are still some parts of the wall that are exposed, so you can see the adobe that is underneath. And our guests, when we're trying to explain adobe, they kind of don't really understand what it is. But we do, unfortunately, have some water damage. But on the bright side, it shows what adobe is. It
Okay.
shows you inside. So we point that out to our guests, and we really help them understand what adobe is and that it's really difficult to maintain. Our buildings, usually when you walk in, they're kind of low, but that's because
Yeah.
the adobe, I guess it's kind of erodes. Yeah,
It
that's
melts.
Yeah, it
It's
melts.
essentially because it's not even necessarily like water damage or that the elements are causing damage. I mean, that happens, but particularly when we're talking about the history and before the canalization of the Rio Grande or the building of Elephant Butte Dam, the floodings that would happen. There's a reason that sure some of the missions burned down, but sometimes they had to move because they were you couldn't get in the door anymore unless you were citizenship of Munchkin land because they were getting short enough because fire, any of those things for a structure are bad, but almost again before the modern era, almost the existential threat to any establishment made of adobe down there was the fact that they could melt from the bottom down as the floodwaters came in.
Going with the context of a history itself, I think people still think of the Rio Grande as what it is today.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
I don't realize that it actually was what its name was at some point, and it was the Rio Grande.
Yep, it was grand, wide, and not at all tame. I
Not
mean,
at all.
if anyone's gone down to the Rio Bosque area, particularly there, either the Bosque del Pache up north, or again the parts that have been maintained more or less as they are down south, within kind of the more closer to El Paso reaches. Those are interesting ways to see it. But yeah, it used to be a very different experience, very meandering. I mean, not even like necessarily the Mississippi, because that's a meandering river, but doesn't have the same phenomena that our region experienced anyway. A more direct way people can see that is in downtown El Paso. They go to like the Union Plaza area. The fact that most of those buildings there, if you're like just on the other side of like the convention center and where the ballpark is now, you're actually looking at the second story of a lot of those buildings because El Paso, pre-modern solution was to, before they had the dam built, to essentially hike up the skirts and build up to the second story to deal with the flooding there. So different eras of different dealings with how the flooding affected buildings and such here. So that's an important part of it. So we got to take that next break right now. So some of the things we're talking about, actually one comment I wanted to get to, Keith Wilden mentioning that looked at the back into the jail back in December, and those cells actually matched the description of cells the city bought in 1881. So this was not even just a one-off down there in the old county jail. City of El Paso was using them, but having been more commonly used there, I am mostly hoping, having never been in them, they've replaced those as well for any modern use. All right, so we're going to take that next break right now. Again, still joining us here in the studio are Oscar and Adi with the Los Portalis Museum. We're going to be talking more about some more of their current and ongoing exhibits after this break with more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
M1 EP Management Corporation is proud to sponsor the El Paso History Show. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market, invest in real estate. M1 EP manages apartments in El Paso and helps investors buy, hold, and sell property. See the website, m1ep.com. m1ep.com. To learn more about the many benefits and long-term appreciation of investing in real estate, call 915-592-4549. 915-592-4549.
El Paso History TV is now available for free on YouTube.com. Take a look at recent ABC 7 news reports by Bernie Sargent on El Paso History TV about Waco tanks, the Franklin Mountains, Concordia Cemetery, and more. The YouTube channel also has more than 100 videos about El Paso history with lectures, documentaries, and various history clips. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV and find out how Texas history begins in El Paso.
Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 on News Radio 690 KTSM, breaking down the impact of the news on the borderland and beyond. Brought to you in part by Mission Del Rey Southwest, souvenirs, gifts, and decor. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Come celebrate the magic behind women-owned businesses at the 18th Annual International Women's Business Symposium, Dancing Backwards in High Heels. Hear from the women leading the charge in the business world. Recognize women entrepreneurs for their success. Get a free professional headshot provided by New American Funding. And stop by the Dior and Foliage Day Spa Beauty Corner. Breakfast, lunch, and closing reception are included. So be sure to join us on Thursday, June 23rd at the Hotel Paso del Norte for an exceptional in-person experience. Tickets by calling 566-4066.
New on Curiosity Stream.
From time to time, we have collisions between asteroids and the Earth.
We track them, we study them. We hope the big one never comes. Don't look up. It's Asteroid Rush. And alligators. They rarely get sick. They even outlasted the dinosaurs. Could they hold the secret to human longevity?
Their blood could have antibacterial applications.
Wade into the investigation on immortal alligators. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Hi, I'm Kyle Cox, owner of Blindster.com. All of our blinds are easy to install, and we recently introduced no tools blinds and shades that require no tools to install. What could be easier? We also have a fitter-free guarantee, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and a limited lifetime warranty on most products.
Visit Blindster today and save 45% off any order. Just use the code Clay and Buck at checkout. Blindster.com. Blinds, T-E-R.com.
Research shows listeners don't like it when ads interrupt their music. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance, we made this ad optional. If you want to skip this ad, remove your left earphone. Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance, so you only pay for what you need.
If you're missing this informative ad, you must love wasting your cash.
It's the easy and smart way to save.
Now it's all been said, so if that your phone was out, put it back in your head.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
And now, let's turn back the pages of time and return to the El Paso History Radio Show. Brought to you by Patrick Tuttle, Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate. 915-588-1850. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant, 6761 Donovan Drive. By M1 EP Management Corporation, 915-592-4549. By Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino. with El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gift shopping. Here again, El Paso History with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk, and we have a lot of stuff we're talking about here today, but of course, talking about some of our partners in promotion this week, only in El Paso Inc. Where is gas most expensive in Texas? El Paso, unfortunately, tops the list, emphasis mine. And also El Paso entrepreneur Scott Adkin talks tech, the city's progress, and renovating the old Firestone building near downtown. El Paso's business journal, El Paso Inc. is available for home or business delivery. Find them online and get your subscription at elpasoinc.com. Again, joining us here in studio, we do have Oscar and Ari with the Los Portalis Museum in San Elizario, right across, catty corner, really across the square from the Presidio Chapel there and the active parish that is San Elizario. So we've been talking a lot about some of the history that you all chart and the exhibits people can come see. If people want to see some of these subjects again, talk about some of the current exhibits that you all have down there a little bit.
So our rotating exhibit room is the lobby area. So as soon as you walk in, you're going to see whatever the new stuff that we're talking about, and that's where the Seeds We Sowed agricultural exhibit is located. In the next room, we have our more static exhibits, and this ones go into the establishment of San Elizario from the arrival of Juan Oñate. We talk a little bit about the Spanish influence. We also dive into the Salt War and give a general outline of what happened. And then the last section talks about San Elizario through the early 1900s. So the schools, as well as the agriculture and how it has declined and what else?
Yeah, and so we also, talk about what the legacy of San Elizario is in itself. It's all two different spaces that we're using at this point. And for our future purposes, the space where we were talking about first on the entrance, that's going to be our rotating exhibit room.
Okay.
For right now, as you guys can see, it's the agriculture exhibit that we have going on. And we try and focus on not just the history part of museums in our case nowadays. So in this one, we have elements of socioeconomic, and we have elements of science part of this exhibit. As you know, we're probably the only museum in a 20-mile radius for this community. So we're trying to be multifaceted while we try and teach everybody.
Very important, definitely, because people knowing their history is, well, you're not going to find me arguing against it on this program particularly, but even beyond that, just in the concept of it can help them understand the importance of such things. I mean, even modernly, I remember growing up, people saying what the expletive is there to do in El Paso or the region, and not understanding that we have rich history, culture, and it's not just some place we grew up. Like, knowing the roots helps people understand, well, how we got where we are and what's the importance of it. And so that's a little bit what you're focusing on. And one of the more interesting ones that has been mentioned a little bit here, I want to say someone mentioned something on an entire show on the Salt War recently. I may have missed that one myself. So if you know what that was titled, let us know, because you do have, again, some things on the Salt War itself here, which if people head out, a variety of places, including to the museum and out into the county, they can find, or even beyond the county, really, some of the references to that, some of the markers and plaques out in the area. So when we're talking about the San Elizario area itself, what are we talking about, the activities or things that you all are marking within the museum that happen there?
So we have these plaques outside that talk about the Salt War. They're dedicated to those who fought in the Salt War. Oftentimes we get our guests and they see the words war and they're like, what do you mean?
There was a war here?
Yeah, and so that's where we can more thoroughly explain exactly what happened. In that third section of the exhibit room, that's where we dive into who were the players involved in the Salt War, and what areas we're talking about, with some maps that can help people kind of place what was going on.
And to give people a real simple concept of it, we're talking generally, if you go out Montana and just don't stop, you're going to end up running into kind of some of the areas that we're discussing here, because you start running into those, again, Salt Flats area. Some pictures I took both last summer and before that. And of course, there was the flooding that happened out there during last summer's rains, which were more than a little bit of a fluke. But, well, give an example of how this happened throughout history. And by the way, if that ever happens again, don't leave the road and do what these people are doing, or at the very least, don't cross a fence that's where I was when I took these pictures. So don't at me. I was not trespassing on anyone's, though I may have been stretching the definition of right of way there. In any case, that concept of actual access to it was the critical concept of the Salt War itself, because again, pre-modern era or early modern era, salt increasingly important and what we again consider badlands at this point.
And they may, the topic of it can even be considered up to the point of, it could be a race-related issue as well. It can be a dichotomic issue as well. There's a lot of different viewpoints to look at it. It's not just about the salt itself, but the treatment of the area. Again, history looked through a vacuum is not a history, and so we need to see the context around it.
Oh yeah, people were absolutely involved with it. And it may be tempting to think of it as just dates on a page, not being much thought about. But Flogging Meta saying I was behind the controls. No, I was not asleep at the wheel, but I did not trespass. That I will maintain that when I took those pictures.
And interestingly enough, too, we do bring that up to our El Paso visitors when they come by. And we talk about the Salt War is even to today, and we mention it's still part of history. People look at that imagery of that really clear blue lake, and they're like, oh wow, how did that happen? I'm like, well, this is where it happened.
Well, temporary lake anyway, kind of, so to speak there. And the fact that we had such conflict happening over there, essentially over the continued access to, I mean, you look at this currently modern day, you wouldn't necessarily think of that as salt you'd want to use in your food, but more maybe close to those Himalayan salt lamps, at least in this kind of way here. And to think of putting that, but again, salt throughout history and particularly locally, there's an entire idea of how we get paid these days, salary coming out of the allotment of salt given to, among other things, Roman soldiers. So salt has had its part and very important as both preservation, seasoning, the tasty rock throughout history, because if you don't have that available, you often lose out a lot of ability to do, again, food preservation, among other things, particularly in our dry, arid Southwest, would lend itself to that. So, but that's just a minimum part of it. There's a lot of reason, agricultural use, animal rearing use was very important. So the fact that it came to a little conflict there, maybe, okay, war might be a little grandiose name for what was, when we're talking about other wars, it would be, pond compared to a Great Lake, essentially. But still, the fact that we call it that and we had that conflict here is significant.
Right. It did help, I guess, in a way, establish Fort Bliss, because it kind of showed, I guess, Texas capital that we were way too far away, that they really had no backup out here. So
that whole frontier concept we were kind of talking about. Yep.
Yeah. So that really helped kind of put how far away we were in perspective, and how things could easily get out of control.
Actually, a good summarization by Keith over here on the comments. A culture clash, race war, power struggle, greed, and political battle all rolled up into one. And of course, salt was also a cash crop, mentioning one of its uses, selling it to the smelters in Chihuahua. Again, the beyond being used on food, salt is very impacting here. So yeah, that's a pretty good way to do it. And also mentioning Flaco Menace, go get a Cornudas burger while you're out there. If they're open, they weren't open last time I went out that way, but hey, if they are now, more power to them. So that's just some of the things that you all continue to focus on. Again, you have your newer exhibits coming up as well with voting, and even beyond that, you had one more that's in the works now, right?
So after the voting exhibit is done, we're going to be focusing on another community aspect of it, which is our art area. So in San Elizario itself, we have an art district, and so we decided to partner up with the San Elizario High School, and their art department is actually going to be presenting a juried exhibition for their students. So,
excellent.
Trying to give the students that kind of recognition and that boost to, hey, we're up on an actual museum setting, and they're legitimizing them to push forward and know that it's something that it's viable for it to do.
Community connections are often important for any kind of institution like this, and what you all are working with, including you mentioned that some of the organizations in the area, including some of the farming and co-ops, farmers markets kind of things, including some previous guests we've had on the show here on our own. So talking about that is important, but of course, getting involved with it, not even just with other institutions, but people, if they individually want to, of course, come out and visit, they can when you have your hours Tuesday through Thursday, and then on weekends. But also, people can get involved in actually helping with the continued functioning and presentations that you all have out there. I mean, you've got aspects of what you're working on with the renovations, what you need with donations, volunteers, but also oral history, right?
Yeah, so we got a grant from Texas Humanities, and we're using that grant to develop our oral histories program. We are getting our own equipment, and we have an oral historian that will be conducting interviews with members of the community so that we can start preserving those stories. We really want to start including those in our exhibits. Like mentioned earlier, we want to make this museum a museum for the community by the community, and by having those stories available, we can do that more effectively.
Also, just marking things down like that, at least like someone said a little bit earlier, that having the people who were involved, particularly in the early farming history, those that are still around, that living history, that living memory, once it's gone, unless you've done something to do with it, it's gone. So marking that down, I think someone specifically said there needs to be more publications, more work being done to both make it accessible, but even just record it. That's critical.
Right. And this is our pilot programming on the oral history itself, but we're working forward to build the foundation to make sure that is a viable source for the community, and not just in San Elizario, but maybe throughout the whole entire valley area as well.
Yeah, that would be a very interesting way to do it, certainly.
And that's just one of the ways that we're engaging our community. So that is obviously aimed at the more older generations in San Elizario. The art exhibit that we're going to have is aimed at the younger audiences, and we're just trying to make as many events or make the museum as enticing to the community as possible. We want as many audiences as possible to come in to learn about what we're trying to present. So, for example, in the agricultural exhibition that we currently have, we have some events coming up. We're going to be partnering with Licon Dairy, and hopefully they're going to show us how to make butter.
Okay.
We'll also be partnering with the city of San Elizario. They have a verdolaga growing program, and so we'll be having them kind of explain what they're trying to do, but also providing our guests with verdolaga dishes, so traditional dishes prepared with verdolaga. So we're really trying to, present different things to get our community to come in and get involved. We also have volunteer opportunities. So eventually that kind of first interest really helps bring in other volunteers at the Los Portalis Museum, but as well as the Old County Jail. So all of that helps bring in more people.
Yeah. So if you're interested in volunteering, please give us a call or email us, and we'd be happy to have you along with us in this very crazy ride that is the museum world.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, losportalismuseum.org is a place they can find you on there. Is there any better or other ways that they can get a hold of you, phone numbers or emails that you'd like to have people contact you at?
Yeah, so our phone number is 915-851-1682. And you can just ask for either of us, Oscar or Adi, and we'll be more than happy to help you out.
Absolutely here. So that'll take us through our next break. Coming out of this break, close up the show, wrap up some of the many things we have touched on here today, and again, refocus on some of those ways you can get involved. So stay tuned with more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152.
Many retired El Paso area homeowners don't know where to begin when it comes to downsizing and selling their home. Patrick Tuttle and his Legacy Home team follow a proven process to help retired homeowners sell faster and for more money. Call Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850 today and get your home sold faster and for more money. That's Patrick Tuttle at 915-588-1850. Call him today.
As you drive through Texas, keep in mind that Don't Mess with Texas actually means don't litter. Keep Texas roads clean and beautiful by holding on to your litter until you can get to a trash can. Always keep a litter-free state of mind and don't mess with Texas. A message brought to you by TxDOT.
Join Brian Birds of the Brian Birds Home Selling Team every Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. for real estate tips with Brian. The best in El Paso when it comes to selling. Brian is an expert in real estate. Listen every Sunday from 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on KTSM AM 690 for tips on buying or selling your home, info on what's going on in the market today, and much, much more. Real estate tips with Brian every Sunday morning at 7:30 on KTSM AM 690.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips that you plan in advance, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends for which you make a group chat 3 months before so that nobody or anything is missing? Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it with such dedication that instead of the first, it felt like our quinces. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
One tap on the talkback mic inside the free iHeartRadio app could get you tickets to our legendary iHeartRadio Music Festival in Vegas this September. First, download the free iHeartRadio app. Second, open the iHeartRadio Music Festival station playing the artists from this year's iconic lineup. Third, tap the talkback mic and send us a message for who you're excited to see take the stage this year.
Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo.
You'll be entered to win tickets for both nights of our world-famous iHeartRadio Music Festival.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
And now, let's turn back the pages of time and return to the El Paso History Radio Show. Brought to you by Patrick Tuttle, Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate, 915-588-1850. Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant, 6761 Donovan Drive. By M1EP Management Corporation, 915-592-4549. By Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino, with El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gift shopping. Here again, El Paso History with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Been your host, Andrew J. Polk, again, having joined us here in studio. Very happy to have Oscar Navarro and Ariandna Velez talking about their work with the Los Portalis Museum and their administration there. We got one quick call we have here on the line. George Sanchez, of course, saying over online, don't forget to mention the art market in San Eli this Sunday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Very important there. And other events going on in the community. Again, y'all's Facebook page is decently active with all the things going on, including from some people may recognize as guests on the show, but we can squeeze in one quick call here. I think we have Vince Sanchez calling in from Brown Acres in Clint. Vince.
Yes, that's right. How's you guys going? This is an interesting show. I'm waiting for it. But anyways, I just wanted to make a comment that in 1950, my grandfather, Antonio Padilla Sanchez, got a few men together for the celebration of the 100-year commemorative the first county seat of El Paso, and he reenacted as one of the commissioners. He also got the men together, and they did a reenactment of the Salt War of 1877 and the break-in of Billy the Kid to break his friend Melquiades Segura out of jail. And our family has been reenacting that. It's a family tradition. My brother Ray put together a group in 1999 called the Desperados of San Elizario, and most of the shows that we used to do were right there in front of the Portalis Museum. We used to do the breakout. We go to the jail and break out Melquiades Segura, and we did the Salt War of 1877 there in front of the Portalis Museum. And that was with the Desperados of San Elizario, which was a tradition with my family for many years. It's a great way to get involved with the community, and it was a fun doing. And about 4 or 5 years ago, we went ahead and gave that group up, which I spearheaded the Pistoleros de San Elizario, Old West reenactors, and I gave that over to El Borrego, which is going strong still for the art market. So visit down there every third Sunday and they have a nice show there in front of the jail there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Vince, for calling in there. Do appreciate it.
Sure. Great show, guys. Thank you for the information.
Appreciate it there. So we're coming up at the end of it here. So again, just one final note there. If people want to get involved, how can they best do so?
They can give us a call at the Los Portales Museum. The number is 915-851-1682. And you could just ask for either Audie or Oscar. We'll be more than happy to set something up for you.
Well, Audie and Oscar, thank you very much for coming with us and talking to us about all these subjects and the work you all do here today.
Thank you so much for having us.
That'll do it for the El Paso History Radio Show. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We'll see you all next weekend. Have a great one. Stay safe out there.
Thank you for listening to the El Paso History Radio Show. We hope you'll join us again next Saturday morning, 10 to noon. And be sure to tell a friend about us. Brought to you by Patrick Tuttle Coldwell Banker Heritage Real Estate, 915-588-1850. By Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant, home of the Juan and Only Margarita. By M1 EP Management Corporation. By Mission Del Rey Southwest, 1421 Lee Trevino, with El Paso souvenirs, decor, and gift shopping. Thank you for joining us from the studios of News Radio 690, KTSM AM El Paso.
All Americans need to be kept up to date about important COVID-19 safety protocols. This presents challenges in communities where English is a second language. We asked Dr. Sheldon Ricklin, family medicine physician and associate professor of family and preventive medicine at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences, about strategies he uses to keep all of his patients informed about COVID-19.
For our patients, English is a second language. And if you add medical terminology on top of that, that even adds a different layer of even difficulty understanding what's going on. So we've always worked on getting things translated in language. We've actually come up with different public PSA information, whether it's on video, whether it's on the Marshallese radio station. So many of the things we've done over the course of the last couple of years is actually education materials, breaking it down into a very simple language that they can understand so they can make that very informed decision for themselves and their family members.
To find COVID-19 vaccines and boosters near you, check out vaccines.gov.
Ron Burgundy here. I'd like to tell you about the new season of the Ron Burgundy podcast. Here's the deal. I burned down the sound studio. Not gonna lie, I had a lot of candles going and I brought a kangaroo.